Welcome, gents. Some people break under pressure, others break open and rebuild themselves into something you cannot shake. The Sigma male doesn't start out unbreakable, he becomes that way. Not because life was kind or easy, but because it wasn't. Because people lied, because love disappeared when he needed it most. Because he was forced to stand on his own before he even knew what that meant. He didn't read about strength in books. He felt it being forced into him when there was no one left to call. The world didn't hold his hand, it pushed him hard enough to either fold or rise. And every time he chose to rise, quietly, without applause, without a support system clapping him on the back. You won't find this kind of resilience in those who had everything handed to them. This kind of strength is shaped in silence, by wounds that never got stitched but somehow healed anyway. To the Sigma female watching this, you are not alone. You carry the same weight, the same quiet fire. You've learned to hold your ground without yelling. You've survived rooms that drained you and relationships that tried to shrink you. And yet here you are, calm, grounded, and impossible to fool. This journey isn't about being untouchable. It's about knowing who you are when everything else falls apart. And if you've been through enough to feel this in your bones, then take this as a reminder. You are not broken, you are battle-tested, and you're just getting started. Let's begin, gents. Number 1. He was betrayed by the ones he trusted most at first. Trust wasn't something the Sigma male questioned in the beginning. He gave it freely, honestly, because he assumed others had the same heart as him. Back then, he wasn't guarded. He didn't scan conversations for hidden motives or double meanings. He believed people at their word. That was his first mistake. The betrayal didn't come from strangers. It came from the people he called family. From the friends who swore loyalty and vanished when things got real, from the ones who looked him in the eyes while quietly working against him. That kind of betrayal doesn't just sting. It leaves a mark that never really fades. See, betrayal isn't just about broken promises. It's about being made to feel like a fool for trusting in the first place. He spent nights replaying conversations, wondering what signs he missed. He went through that silent war between wanting to stay kind and being forced to build armor. It wasn't bitterness that changed him, it was the slow realization that not everyone claps when you win. Some people stay close just to study your weaknesses. Now he doesn't hate people, he just doesn't hand over trust the way he used to. He pays attention to the small things, how someone talks about others when they think no one's watching, what they do when they're told no. He watches, listens, and stores information like a strategist. It's not about being cold, it's about self-preservation. He learned the hard way that loyalty is rare and words are cheap, so when he finally lets someone in, it's not because he's lonely, it's because they've passed through layers of his quiet tests without even knowing it. That betrayal didn't destroy him, it rebuilt him with sharper edges. And now when people look at him and see calm, they have no idea how many storms he survived just to trust himself again. Number 2, he was taught to be seen, not heard. From a young age, the Sigma male was told to keep quiet, not with harsh words, but with looks, dismissals, and the kind of silence that makes a child second-guess their own voice. He learned quickly that speaking his mind came with consequences. His thoughts were too real, too sharp, too uncomfortable for people who preferred sugar-coated lies over hard truths. So he stopped talking and started paying attention. While other kids were loud and desperate to be noticed, he watched everything. He caught the moments when adults said one thing and meant another. He noticed when people pretended to care but couldn't hide their disinterest. And instead of forcing his way into conversations that never welcomed him, he built a world in his head where thinking deeply wasn't just allowed, it was necessary. That silence everyone thought was shyness, it became his shield. While people underestimated him, he studied the room. He saw through fake smiles, picked up on tension before anyone else did, and understood how people moved before they even made a decision. His quiet wasn't weakness, it was calculation. They taught him to be seen, not heard, and in doing so they created someone who could see through everything. He doesn't speak just to be heard, he speaks when it matters. And when he does, people listen, not because he demands it, but because they can feel the weight behind his words. He was never afraid of speaking. He was just waiting until he knew who deserved to hear him. That early silence turned into a kind of discipline. It gave him control over his emotions, over his reactions, over how much of himself he reveals. Now the very thing they once tried to suppress has become his greatest strength. He doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. He's mastered the quiet, and in that quiet he became dangerous. Number 3, he learned that being right doesn't always win. There was a time when the Sigma male believed that truth always won. He thought facts mattered, that logic could cut through noise, that if you had the truth on your side, you didn't need anything else. But life doesn't work like that. He found out quickly that people don't always want the truth. Most would rather hold on to a sweet lie than face a reality that makes them uncomfortable. He tried to explain, tried to show people what they refused to see. But instead of listening, they pushed back. They defended the lie because it felt safer. And he realized something brutal but necessary. Being right means nothing to someone who's not ready to hear it. So he stopped explaining himself, not out of anger, not out of defeat, but because he understood that truth doesn't need to beg for attention. It waits, it watches, and eventually it reveals itself in ways that words never could. Now he moves differently. He doesn't argue, he doesn't correct, he doesn't try to change minds. He observes, he notes, and he moves on. There's a quiet power in that, letting people believe what they want while you stay focused on what's real. He learned that silence isn't weakness, it's patience. He doesn't need to prove his point anymore. Time handles that, experience handles that. When the dust settles and the truth finally shows its face, the same people who called him cold or arrogant end up seeing what he saw all along. He's not cold, he's just done wasting his breath. The truth doesn't always win today, but it always wins eventually, and he's willing to wait. That's the difference. While others chase the spotlight, he walks quietly with the truth in his pocket, knowing full well that one day it will speak louder than anything he could have said. Number 4, he was taught to endure, not to heal. Growing up, the Sigma male wasn't told to sit with his pain. He wasn't given the space to talk about what hurt or what confused him. Instead, he was told to toughen up, to push through, to keep going no matter what. The message was clear. Emotions slow you down, and pain is something you bury, not something you deal with. So that's exactly what he did. He didn't cry. He didn't ask for help. He swallowed every feeling and pushed it deeper until it no longer had a name. But just because he buried it didn't mean it disappeared. That pain stayed. It grew roots, and over time it hardened into something else. Endurance. He learned how to function with a heavy heart, how to keep moving even when it felt like the world was pressing down on his shoulders. While others fell apart, he kept showing up. Not because he was stronger, but because he never learned how to fall apart in the first place. That unhealed pain, the kind that sits quietly under the surface, became fuel. He used it to power his goals, his grind, his growth. Every time he felt doubt creeping in, he leaned into that silent fire inside him, the one built from everything he never got to say, everything he never got to feel. He doesn't wear his pain on his sleeve. He doesn't need to. You can see it in his focus, in how precise he is, in how far ahead he's thinking. Every achievement he's reaching now is soaked in the weight of the pain he wasn't allowed to process. But here's the twist. He's not angry. He's aware. He knows what shaped him. He knows the cost. And while healing might still be a journey, that endurance gave him something rare. The ability to keep going when most people would fold. That's not weakness. That's quiet strength forged in silence. Number 5, he discovered that his darkness wasn't his enemy. It was his blueprint. Most people run from their shadows. They bury their anger, numb their fear, and pretend their pain doesn't exist. He did too, for a while, until he realized that avoiding the darkness only gave it more power, that pretending everything was fine when it wasn't was slowly killing the best parts of him. So one day he stopped running. He sat with his rage. He stared into the raw, unfiltered parts of himself that scared him the most, the bitterness, the grief, the deep, quiet sadness that never fully left. He didn't judge it. He studied it. And what he found wasn't weakness. It was truth. His darkness had been trying to talk to him all along. Every outburst, every sleepless night, every moment of self-doubt had a story to tell. And once he listened, something changed. He stopped seeing it as a flaw and started using it as a tool, a blueprint, a map to everything he needed to understand about himself. From his anger, he built discipline. From his fear, he learned focus. From his grief, he carved out gratitude. The same emotions that once threatened to drown him became the foundation of a version of himself that no one could shake. He didn't become unbreakable because he avoided pain. He became unbreakable because he faced it head-on and built something out of it, while others were busy keeping up appearances. He was doing the real work in the shadows. He doesn't hide his darkness anymore. He doesn't lead with it, but he doesn't deny it either, because he knows now. It's not the bright, polished parts that make you strong. It's the messy, wounded, honest parts. That's where the real power is. His darkness didn't destroy him, it made him. And that's why nothing and no one can unmake him now. Number 6, he watched weak men be praised for pleasing others. He watched it happen over and over again. Men who said yes to everything. Men who smiled when they were disrespected. Men who gave up their voice just to be accepted by people who didn't even respect them. And the world clapped for it, called them kind, called them agreeable, said they were easy to work with. But he saw through it. It wasn't kindness. It was fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being disliked. Fear of standing for something that might ruffle feathers. And for a while it bothered him, not because he wanted their approval, but because it seemed like the world rewarded obedience more than it respected integrity. But then he made a choice, a hard one. He chose dignity over convenience. He chose self-respect over fake approval. He refused to say yes when he meant no, refused to laugh at things that weren't funny just to fit in, refused to shrink himself to make others comfortable. And he paid the price for it. He lost opportunities, got labeled as difficult or cold, watched people with less backbone get ahead. That wound, watching weaker men get praised for playing the game, cut deep, but it also shaped him. It reminded him that real strength is quiet. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't need a fan club. He doesn't move to please. He moves with purpose. That's what separates him. While others twist themselves into whatever version is most likable, he stands rooted in who he is. He knows now that being liked is cheap. Being respected costs something, and most people aren't willing to pay that price. But he is, even if it means standing alone, even if it means walking a road where applause is rare. Because he'd rather be respected by a few than applauded by the many for being someone he's not. Number 7, he was judged for his stillness. People never knew what to make of him. While others rushed to speak, he stayed quiet. While the room filled with noise, he watched. And in a world that equates loudness with strength, his stillness made people uncomfortable. They called him cold, said he was distant, thought he had nothing to offer. But what they didn't understand was that stillness wasn't a lack of power. It was control. He wasn't silent because he had nothing to say. He was silent because he didn't waste energy explaining himself to people who weren't ready to listen. They thought he wasn't paying attention, but he was noticing everything. Every tone shift, every fake smile, every hidden motive behind polite words. While others were busy talking, he was collecting data, studying the room, reading the energy. He learned early that those who rush to be heard often have the least to say, and those who stay quiet are the ones who truly see. He doesn't correct people anymore when they misread him, doesn't explain himself to prove his worth. Their assumptions don't bother him. In fact, they work in his favor. Being underestimated gives him the space to move without resistance. It lets him strike when no one's paying attention. They think stillness is weakness, but stillness is focus. Stillness is precision. Stillness is knowing exactly when to act and when to hold back. And by the time they realize how wrong they were about him, he's already 10 steps ahead. He lets the world misjudge him now. It's no longer something he fears. It's something he uses. Because while they waste time doubting him, he's mastering the very silence they never had the discipline to sit with. Number 8, he was used as a backup plan, not a priority. He wasn't the one they called to celebrate. He was the one they called when everything fell apart. When they were lost, when they had no one else, when the party was over and reality hit hard. That's when they remembered him. And every time he showed up, he listened, he gave. He fixed things no one else could fix. He became their calm in chaos, their steady hand when the world got too loud. But when they were flying high, when things were good, he didn't hear from them, not even a thank you. At first he brushed it off, told himself they were just busy, gave people the benefit of the doubt, but it kept happening. And with every time they disappeared after they were done using his presence, something inside him hardened. That kind of pattern leaves a mark. It teaches you that not everyone who smiles at you sees your worth. Some people only keep you around for what you can do for them, not for who you are. Eventually, he woke up. He stopped answering those calls. He stopped pouring into people who left him empty. It wasn't bitterness, it was clarity. He realized his time and energy were valuable and not everyone deserved access. Now his boundaries are clear and sharp. He doesn't explain them. He doesn't apologize for them. If someone only shows up when they need something, they won't get anything. He's no longer the backup plan. He's not the second option. He's the man who rebuilt his own peace after being drained too many times. And once you build that kind of peace, protecting it becomes non-negotiable. He's not angry. He's just done being the lifeboat for people who only remember you when they're sinking. That version of him no longer exists. Number 9. He was given responsibility before he was ready. He didn't get the luxury of growing up slow. While others were still figuring themselves out, he was already holding things together, holding back tears, holding down jobs, holding up people who should have been holding him. Life threw weight on his back that didn't belong there. He became the fixer, the protector, the one who kept everything from falling apart, even when he was barely holding on himself. He didn't get asked if he was ready. He got pushed into the fire and expected to walk out clean. No one saw the pressure. They just saw the results. They called him strong, but strength was never the goal. Survival was. He never had space to break, so he bent quietly. And over time, that constant weight did something brutal. It crushed the child in him, the part that trusted easily, that hoped recklessly, that believed someone would come save him. No one came, so he became what he needed. And in that process, the boy faded, but the man was born, a man who doesn't flinch, who doesn't wait for rescue, who doesn't crumble when life throws chaos his way because he's already lived through worse. Now he walks with a calm most people don't understand, not because life's been easy, but because he's carried more than most will ever know. His silence isn't empty, it's earned. He no longer resents that early wait. It taught him how to adapt, how to stay grounded, how to stay sharp in a world that doesn't wait for anyone to catch up. That burden didn't break him. It built someone unshakable, someone who no longer fears pressure, because he is pressure. Number 10, he faced the truth that no one's coming to save him. There was a time he waited for someone to notice he was struggling, waited for a break, waited for a sign that help was on the way. He held on to hope like a lifeline, thinking someone would eventually reach in and pull him out of the chaos. But the silence stretched. The doors stayed closed, and the world kept spinning like his pain didn't matter. That's when the truth hit. No one was coming. Not to rescue him, not to fix it, not to carry him out of the fire. And as harsh as that truth was, it became the turning point. He stopped looking up. He started digging deep. He didn't wait for a handout. He got up, raw and bruised, and started building a way out, piece by piece, inch by inch. He built his own ladder out of hell, from grit, from hunger, from the very pain that once had him on his knees. And he didn't just climb out. He came out stronger, sharper, and completely rewired. That moment killed any trace of the victim in him. He's not interested in blame. He's not chasing sympathy. He doesn't romanticize struggle, but he knows what it taught him. Self-reliance isn't a mindset. It's survival. Now he moves different. He trusts his instincts more than opinions. He builds quietly, protects fiercely, and never waits for permission. He's allergic to excuses and immune to pity. Because once you face that lonely truth that no one's coming, you stop wishing and start becoming, and that's exactly what he did. He became his own rescue, his own anchor, his own storm. Number 11, he was blamed for being too much or too little. He learned early that no matter what he did, it was somehow wrong. Too quiet, and they called him cold. Too intense, and he was intimidating. Too distant, and he was labeled disconnected. Too deep, and suddenly he was overthinking everything. He could never land in the middle because the middle was never real to begin with. It was just a moving target designed to keep him small, confused, and easy to control. The truth is, he made people uncomfortable simply by being fully himself. His silence made them insecure. His depth revealed their shallowness. His standards made their excuses obvious. At first he tried to adjust, speak more, care less, play it light. But it didn't take long to realize that chasing approval is a race with no finish line. No matter how much he dimmed himself, someone always had a problem with the glow that remained. So he stopped explaining, stopped shrinking, stopped apologizing for the way his mind works or how his energy sits in a room. Instead, he made peace with being misunderstood. He realized that clarity doesn't require permission. And greatness rarely looks familiar to those still stuck in the ordinary. Now he lets his results speak. He builds in silence, creates with intensity, and shows up with purpose. While others waste breath trying to fit in or gain applause, he's too focused on becoming undeniable. People still talk. They still label. But it doesn't touch him anymore. Because he finally understands being too much or too little only matters to those who never knew how to handle something real. In final words, some people chase attention, others attract it by staying rooted. The difference is depth. Sigma males don't avoid modern women because they're cold or bitter. They avoid the noise because they've developed a level of self-awareness that makes superficial connection feel suffocating. They've grown tired of the emotional performance, the trend-driven personalities, and the games that lead nowhere. They aren't looking for chaos disguised as chemistry. They're looking for something quieter, realer, something that doesn't need to shout to be strong. What they want is depth, a mind that isn't glued to what's trending, a presence that doesn't need a spotlight to feel worthy. They're not interested in quick sparks that burn out. They're drawn to the slow burn of substance. This doesn't mean all modern women are shallow, but it does mean the ones who are still building themselves on likes, trends, and temporary thrills will miss the mark. Sigma males are rare because they've chosen peace over popularity, and they naturally align with women who've made the same choice. If you're a woman who values silence over spectacle, truth over performance, and growth over drama, you don't need to change for anyone. You're already what these men quietly look for but rarely find. Stay grounded. Keep your energy clean. Don't dilute your essence to match a noisy world. The Sigma male doesn't need you to impress him. He needs you to be fully, honestly, and without apology, because in the end, real always recognizes real. And when the surface fades, the ones who've done the inner work will be the ones still standing, not looking to be chosen, but choosing with clarity. Thank you for watching, gents, and God bless you.